All right, folks, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am excited to chat about these Denver Nuggets with my guy, Swipa Cam. We are on weekends with Swipa here. Swipa, how you doing, my guy?
Yeah, I'm living. Been a great start to the season. The Denver Nuggets are doing what I thought they would do. I believe you also thought they might get off to a hot start as well. They look like the NBA champions that they are. They're trying to win a second straight, and they got the best player in the world and apparently a couple all-defensive players. So maybe Coach of the Year Michael Malone might actually get a serious look this year. So, who knows? We'll see.
Coach of the Year, Michael Malone. I do like the sound of that. That would be a fun one for sure. It is interesting. There have been a lot of guys that have gotten the credit over the course of this run that have been receiving the praise, whether it's Jokic, obviously he's gotten his flowers. Jamal Murray, I think, has gotten his flowers too. Every single role player for the Nuggets, from KCP and Bruce Brown to Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, to guys along down the line, have gotten their credit as well. Michael Malone doesn't get a lot of credit, and I think that'll be a fascinating story. If they were to get off to that, 55 to 60 win threshold, then he's got to be at least a front runner for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, though, bro, it's like they've been getting so underestimated from the coaching standpoint for years. And every time Malone had a really good season, I think 2018-19, they won 54 games. Was that I think did Steve Kerr win that year? That's when the Warriors had Kevin Durant and them. I can't remember. That was the year the Toronto Raptors won.
Actually, 2018-19, I believe that was the first Mike Budenholzer year.
Yes,
and
it was.
Bucks,
they won 60 games or something like that.
They skyrocketed, and understandably so. But I would be nice to see Coach Malone get some of that credit too.
Well, but even 1920, I don't remember who Coach of the Year was for the bubble. 2021, it was Thibodeau, Tom Thibodeau, and then 22, I believe it was Monty, and then last year was Mike Brown. And so this year, and unanimous, by the way, Mike Brown, which he should have been. But this year, bro, it's like he just won a championship. He'd outcoached all these coaches down the stretch of the game. Even Eric Spoelstra, like the adjustment they made to the zone, like made some excellent adjustments there. And then even this year, getting Joker off of Kevon Looney, he did a similar thing, getting him off of Jonas Valanciunas last year, putting him on Herb Jones. They did a similar strategy again this year. Put him on a wing, messes up the rotations and messes up the scheme they're trying to run offensively. And this year, he has Jamal Murray's missing dates. Now he got Reggie Jackson in the lineup, having the best net rating in the NBA with Nikola Jokic, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji. These are fourth, second, and a rookie in Julian Strawther that are getting minutes off the bench, and they're playing for the best team in the NBA and also out executing everybody down the stretch. So for me, it's like they have a top 7 defense, they have a top 3 offense, and now they're one of the best teams on both sides of the court, and they're out executing everybody. And every time you come into a game plan, you hear Lakers fans talk about Malone. They say they like Malone because he's way more engaged than their coach. Or you hear other fan base talk about Malone. He gets riled up about his players. He sticks up for his players. He continues to coach them hard. He doesn't let anybody slip. Michael Porter Jr., from 2018, where he was out, to 2019, his rookie year, all the way to now, everybody's noted what he's done with him. And then Peyton Watson, you were there early this season. I'm not just going to give him minutes. I'm going to make him earn those minutes. I'm going to give them to him, but he can have to make sure he keeps those minutes. I just don't understand, for me, what else somebody would have to do besides going 16-4 off a championship run, having the best record in the league, and then also being the best team in the West again, and then being as dominant as they are, and even having a plus bench unit so far to start the year. For me, I just don't understand. But this is what's going to happen, Ryan. If the Philadelphia 76ers end up with a top 2 seed, it's going to be Nick Nurse. Because Nick Nurse came in 1 year, Tyrese Maxey's a 25-5-5 player, and now they're a top 2 seed even without James Harden, and they got these role players back for them. So I already see how the narrative's kind of shifting.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. I left this comment up here because I liked it from Grace. Coach of the Year, it's always about exceeding expectations, and I'm not sure that Dagnall is going to be able to get there, but Ime is a good one. Chris Finch is a good one, just because of like a lot of people were concerned about the fit. in Minnesota. And if they're able to work through that, then there's reasons to believe that they could really push forward. But I do agree with you. Parsing credit in the NBA is always very difficult to figure out. It's always very difficult to understand for a lot of people that don't like really get to see behind the curtain. So I know that most voters do get to see behind the curtain. They do get to kind of understand in these situations, but a lot of them go by public narratives anyway, and a lot of that is public groupthink. And I think the public narrative about the Nuggets in general is just that Nikola Jokic does everything for the team, which he does, and a lot of guys there's not a lot of
But
room for a
Ryan,
lot of guys to get the individual credit in that sort of a setup.
but that's not even how basketball works. Because Phil Jackson got credit for Michael Jordan. Scottie Pippen got credit for what he did. Going after that, Shaq and Kobe and Phil Jackson again. There was plenty of credit going around for those players. Pop got credit with Tim Duncan. Even D'Antoni got credit for Steve Nash and revolutionizing the Suns offense. And then you go from there. You obviously had the Mavericks iteration, that was the Nelson-led team and all that. And then after that, Eric Spoelstra got credit for LeBron James. Eric Spoelstra, look how he's making it. Make Dwayne Wade and LeBron James and Chris Bosh and Mario Chalmers and all these players and put aside their egos and all that other stuff. So this is what I'm trying to understand, bro. I think, and I didn't even know we were going to start off on this, but this is kind of how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how you can say, because this is the thing, Ryan. They can't have it both ways. It can't be, it's all Joker. But then when it comes to like certifying that Joker is one of the, in their peak 5, 6, 7 most important best players of all time at a peak, like unless you're willing to concede that he's just clearly like in a Bill Russell, Kareem, Magic, Bron tier, Jordan tier, or something like that. Then if he's not, then obviously you have to then attribute to the fact that coach is putting him in the right position. You're a Golden State Warriors fan. They complain about Steve Kerr all the time. They believe, some of them, that if Steph Curry had the same role as Joker and got the same level of touches and involvement in the offense, that he would do the exact same thing, which we know is not true. But they believe that. But they say that Michael Malone situates Joker to be great like this. But even Gilbert Arenas, they asked Gilbert Arenas on this show, like, who gets more credit? Is it Joker or is it the system? And they're like, well, obviously the system amplified what Joker is. Well, who built the system? No, it wasn't Joker. Joker didn't build that. It was Malone. This is not taking credit away from anyone. This is how it worked. For instance, Brian, you and I are in a relationship. Me and you are really good friends. We're becoming best of friends, someone might say. So this is what I'm trying to understand. Is Weekends with Swipa, Mile High Sport, is it just you or is it just me? It can't be that. It's like we're both carrying it together. It doesn't work unless we're doing this well together. So I just don't buy into this idea that because one person does a function of a job differently than another, that the other person doesn't get credit. That's crazy to me. Like, no matter what happens, Ryan, no matter where I go from here, they're going to ask me, Swipa, who was one of the first persons that showed you love and gave you a spot? It was Ryan Blackburn. That's how it worked. I'm always going to say that. I wouldn't have been here without people like Ryan. So that's what I'm saying. I just don't get it. I just don't understand it.
It's completely fair, and it's an understandable narrative where I know a lot of folks are confused about how some of these things go down, and more of it's not necessarily how, like, because Malone should be getting this credit. It's just about who deserves the most credit in any given year. It's one of the reasons why Eric Spoelstra has never won Coach of the Year, despite the fact that
Yeah.
he is considered pretty much universally the best
Top
coach
10
in the
coach all
NBA.
time. But
Yeah, and like
he made the NBA 75 as one of the 15 coaches,
mhm.
or one of the 15 coaches, the 15 greatest coaches of all time. So
Not
Malone.
having a coach of the year is pretty tough, and like when guys like Tom Thibodeau, because he's in a big market, because it's very
Right.
glamorous, like it's a award that is awarded very dumbly, in my opinion.
Bro,
I do
think
agree
about it.
with that.
They wanted to give Rob Pelinka this summer executive of the year because of the Gabe Vincent, Torian Prince, Jackson Hayes, Rui Hachimura signing, Austin Reeves signing. Who else did they pick up? Torian Prince,
Cam
Gabe
Reddish.
Vincent.
Cam Reddish has actually
Cam
been
Reddish.
decent for them. Yeah.
Yeah, as a defender, shooting is
Yeah.
awful. But I'm saying, like, they wanted to give him executive of the year off those moves, but they're still getting smoked. Like Calvin Booth put this whole team together, invested in all these players, all these young players. He's not going to get any love for that. Because you know what it's going to come back down to? Well, Joker just amplifies everybody, makes everybody look great. Well, Luka does too. Why isn't Jason Kidd in them conversations? Why? I mean, that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying, bro. It doesn't make sense to me. either Jamal Murray is an all NBA level player, or you're telling me Joker's one of the three best players of all time. It's got to be one or the other. It can't be it.
Well, that seems like a pretty good transition to this segment, where we were going to start this, but I do kind of think that this kind of flows into this really nicely.
Right.
There are levels to this, man. There are levels to what somebody like Nikola Jokic is doing, how he has really continued to elevate his game. He never has a bad one. His bad games are still 35, 13, and 5. Like his like when I was talking to on the alley oop with Ryan Blackburn, I talked to Memphis Grizzlies correspondent Joe Mullinax, who does Locked On Grizzlies, and he was talking about how, man, they limited Nikola, they made his life hell, and he
Right.
still had 21, 12, and 8, and made some game winning buckets at the end. Like it just is. There are levels to this, and if that is the worst game that we get from Nikola Jokic, or maybe it's the 35, 13, and 5 game that he had against Golden State, where he missed several free throws and turned a ball over late and still had 35, 13, and 5. There are levels to this, man. And I do understand wanting to give everybody credit, because everybody does deserve credit for this. I have been trying to
Right.
push that basically all of last year, where everybody deserves a piece of the pie here. It is not
Mm-hmm.
just Nikola Jokic. And yet he is the only one with any sort of accolades. And I think that there is a reason behind that for a lot of people, is he does everything. His hands are all over the Nugget system, and they continue to be. And like it is why he is going to go down in the pantheon.
Yeah, I mean, he will. I mean, everybody else is going to be slow to it. So, I mean, I agree with you. I think that, right now, Brian, Joker's averaging 29.1, 12.9, 8 on 68% true shooting this year. All right. Like, all right. Come on. Like,
Pretty good.
come on, bro. Like, that's insane. Like, the fact that he's doing that, uh, and then just, this is the thing for me, bro. I think Joker has reached this point, man, where he is like, bro, this is how good the Nuggets are right now, right? So I listen to a bunch of podcasts, some of the Lockdown Network stuff and other Warriors, content creators, and they were like, without Jamal Murray and obviously Draymond and GP2 weren't there, but they were like, well, this is a good test game. The Warriors get to size themselves up against a team to see how good they actually are. And I just thought that was hilarious because, Ryan, you remember 2018-19 when the Nuggets played Kevin Durant and Clay, and they came into town, dropped 51 in the first quarter. That
It
that
was an absolute evisceration. It was
right.
levels to this for sure.
Right. But that's how good Joker is, that he's on the court with, again, I think a very good roster. I think the best in the league all around, if you want to put that out there. But Reggie Jackson starting a point guard in all offseason, people were down on Reggie and saying that Reggie couldn't get that job done. All of a sudden, Reggie's getting 20 points in a game, 6 assists. Like he's able to actually replicate Jamal Murray to a degree out there. Here's my thing, bro, is that like he's so freaking good that the Pelican broadcast this week, and I noted this on Locked On and on my channel, I said they were just talking about Joker the same way people were talking about LeBron in like that 2018 era, like where it was just like, there's nothing you can do about it. He's going to get his. He's going to dominate you, but you just have to try to limit his dominance. And I think right now, bro, we're watching a dude at 28 years old who solved a game. And against the Warriors, he wanted to prove a point to himself. He wasn't hitting three-pointers, and he was literally annoyed that he wasn't hitting three-pointers. And at that point, he stopped caring about everything else. And he was like, I'm going to hit a three-pointer, and I'm going to hit a couple of three-pointers today. He shot 8 three-pointers just because he could. And because he's so great, Ryan, this is how you know how good he is. Right. And Alexander, that's great. Yeah, let's not forget one of Joker's best regular season game with the 13-13 game versus the Grizz last year. The numbers really don't pop up, but he dominated the game. And Ryan, that's when they took over first place in the West. And without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. for that game, they started the all defense lineup around him.
It
105 to
was
91.
unbelievable game, and that was the game that he put the ball between his legs. Like
Right.
it's hilarious how those things kind of line up and how those things work, where he's just on a swivel. And like that game, he was as in control of everything as I've ever seen, and he had 13 points.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I say this to say, bro, like, and you let me know, Ryan, what you're thinking with this, because I think there's a separation between him and everybody else. I think even now, as good as Embiid's playing, and Giannis just had a 54-point game, and Steph's playing really well, Luka, there's just not a conversation. There's just not. Like he was on the court with Steph. Steph didn't even look like he was in a conversation with Joker. Like, and he was getting hounded defensively, but so was Joker. But Joker still went out there and gave you 35, 13, and 5 on 14 of 25. Like, he just had 1 of 8. He was 13 of 17 from 2 in that game, Ryan. You
They
know,
were I mean, they were plus with Joker on the floor, basically -10 with Steph on the floor. Like,
right,
that is, I think, where you are feeling that level of impact for when you have 2 titans of the game kind of
right,
jumping in, and playing against each other, 2 distinctly different styles, 2 distinctly different players, but 2 singularly impactful players. It just didn't matter what Steph did
right.
in that one, and it might matter next time. It might matter when they go to Golden State and Steph dominates in that particular building, but for at least these first 9, 10 games, like the early part of the season, Joker has been the best guy on the floor pretty much every single time he's gone out there. I think, and even
Who else
against
be in
the,
the conversation?
yeah, I mean, I think Embiid he has made some steps on both ends of the floor, but he also is being spoon fed in a lot of situations. I've really loved what Embiid's done defensively for what it's worth. Um, but like, Steph would be the only other guy because Giannis isn't there, even though they had the 54-point game. Like, there were
Yeah,
some
bring him.
really bad things over the course of the first 10 that it absolutely
Well, but here's the thing
needs
with
to
the
be
Embiid.
discussed. Yeah.
Embiid has 5.5 assists per game this year, getting much better. It's dropped a little bit. But, Embiid, the 2 teams they play that were really elite teams, he had another two games versus the Celtics and the Bucks were a negative assist to turnover ratio again. But this is the same thing. Embiid is feasting as a playmaker against these bad teams, Wizards, or Detroit, or whatever else. But you even heard Monty Williams. Did you see what Monty had to say about the game and Embiid and foul baiting and all that?
I didn't see it, but I
Okay.
can assume where you're going here.
Well, he basically was just saying like there's just nothing we can do because he just doesn't feel like that's a part of the game. My whole thing with Embiid is like, yo, get to when it matters, and you do it there, and you play a play style that functions at a high level. Then we can have a different conversation. But I'm just not moved by that. Giannis, we know Giannis is going to like pick it up, but his post game is trash, bro. Like I put the numbers up the other day. I was just trying to see where he was after working with Akeem, bro. 0.55 points per possession as a post up player, just like it's asinine. It's
Huh.
asinine. Like it's not even a conversation. But then you got Jason Tatum. I think it's really freaking good. I think that Kevin Durant's been great this year to start the year off, and he's had to be to carry that roster. LeBron's had some really strong moments. Luca just absolutely stunned the Clippers the other night. So there are a host of players, bro, but there is just nobody that has the control, that has the pace and the flow, and that dominates the game however they choose to. Like Joker, again, bro. Joker's shooting 71% from within the 3-point line. He's
Yeah,
shooting
it's I mean,
60% from mid range.
it's crazy. There are crazy numbers that you can always throw out there with him. And we've seen it in the head-to-head matchups as well. Like when
Right,
Luca comes to town and you see this build as the Luca versus Jokic matchup. Luca couldn't get anything to go against Michael Porter Jr. Like that's
yeah,
I understand that Porter has made his regressions, but like that is a like to me, there are matchups that still give a lot of these guys problems. And we'll have to circle back to that Timberwolves matchup with Joker and see how Denver can handle that.
right.
That's the one that I think you can really point to so far this year. But like other than that, it is crazy in general that uh like it's just going to be very interesting. Shea was another one. Basically every single matchup, Joker's won from a star perspective, and I'm curious to see the first one that he actually loses. Like I don't know when it's going to come, but it'll come at some point. But I'm curious to see when
I
he
mean,
doesn't look like the best player on the floor.
depending how the Nuggets come out versus Houston, it could end up being Alfie. Because Alfie going to come out swinging on
Oh
Sunday.
yeah, oh yeah, he's going to be fun. We'll talk about that in the third segment. But hey, tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to give some love to Reggie Jackson, who absolutely
Yeah.
deserves it, and talk about the Nuggets bench, which Reggie vacated, of course, being in the starting unit with Nikola Jokic. But first, everybody, this podcast, as you know, it's brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. Did you know that you could win a trip to the biggest football game of the year, courtesy of Superbook? They will fly you and a friend to Las Vegas for February's championship game. And they'll also give you 2 tickets to that game, plus a 3-night hotel stay. All you have to do is place a parlay between now and January 7th, and you're automatically entered to win. It is a $25 same game parlay. So wager and win a super trip to Las Vegas, courtesy of Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be right back on Weekends with Swipa. And we are back. Pickaxe and roll. Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate all the love and support on the podcast. As always, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. If you're listening on the audio side, if you're on the video side here, or if you're listening live, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It absolutely helps to share out the show and tell people that you're enjoying the content. So thank you so much for tuning in. All right, Cam, or swipe it. Oh my god. Let's chat about oh my god. Let's chat about Reggie Jackson. Let's chat about the best season that we have seen in a while from Reggie. Um, I'm pretty impressed with what we've done, with what he's seen. I think that there is one season that you could point to, and it is the 2021 LA Clippers season. That's the only one that I can speak to. You're muted, by the way, Cam. Uh,
The 2021 season,
mhm.
that he had the 28-12 game versus Joker and them too. He was really good that year.
Tremendous, and he is a absolute beast in that year. And but he had a couple of down seasons. He had a couple of down years, and I think a lot of people kind of left him out to dry, especially when he came over to Denver and it didn't initially work. Things were not going very well. Doesn't make the playoff rotation, and the Nuggets kind of say, "All right, we're gonna wait until the summer. We're gonna wait until you get into the building." And I think that Reggie's had a great year, a great start to the season. There are some shots that he kind of has to take in order to bail out the second unit, so his efficiency is not going to look as great as it usually as it could when he's just playing with Joker. But when he's with Jokic and when he's sharing the court with all the starters and everybody, he looks great. And the Nuggets plus minus is great too.
Yeah, so the two-man game of Reggie Jackson and Nikola Jokic has been really freaking good. 122 O rating in 123 minutes and an 88.6 D rating in 123 minutes, which gives them a net rating of plus 33.5. So Baku's never that way with Joker, so that should be a sign of good things to come. Now on the season, I was surprised about his true shooting is low. It's like a 51.8. But if you look into the numbers, the reason why it's so low is because he's shooting 43% from the field, but he's shooting 55.5% from the free throw line. So I actually don't think his shooting numbers are indicative of how he's been playing. His pace control's been good, hasn't been super noticeable defensively when he's getting hunted out there at all. The pick and roll game has been good. He's slashing, he's cutting a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm telling you, I got like 3 clips already in the bank for Twitter. He had like some nice little hings getting to the rim or hing, pass out kind of moves. I was like, ooh, Reggie Jackson. He looks good, man. I'm really happy for him. Again, this is just Calvin Booth just knowing what the roster needs. Like, look, we just need somebody that is a bit bigger, but can manage these minutes, can play hard, smart, veteran player to man those minutes in case we need, somebody for Jamal Murray and somebody to help, Jalen Pickett and Collins Gillespie come along and stuff as well. So he's been great, man. I mean, honestly, no complaints about Reggie.
No complaints by Reggie at all. I mean, there are some times where, like, there was a play a couple of games ago at the end of the third quarter where he and DeAndre Jordan are trying to figure out,
Yeah,
okay, when are we going to run this pick and roll? Like the clock's running down, and then they just like never get into offense. And there are some
right.
brain farts here or there. There are some like I call them space cadet moments where it's sometimes like just whatever it was just didn't process, and something bad happens, and it's a bad play. And there have been very few of those. I'm not gonna lie. Reggie has been very dialed in. He's been very locked in for what the Nuggets have needed. And just a couple of numbers here to add to what I'm saying. 3.4 assist to turnover ratio is tremendous. It is really,
Hmm.
really good. That's what you want from a starting point guard. And even some of the best starting point guards don't have that number. And he's kept his turnovers down. That's what you want when your offense is so good, because the only thing that's really going to prevent you from scoring, especially when Denver gets offensive rebounds and things like that, is if you don't get a shot up. So not turning the ball over, it's really good. And then 36.1% from three, a very good number as well. He sometimes has to take these bailout threes. So I think if you sorted by when in the shot clock he's taking a lot of these shots, if you just cut out the ones that are inside 4 seconds on the shot clock, probably doing okay. And
Hmm.
then 12th in the NBA. In the entire NBA, he's tied for 12th in total plus minus with some pretty impressive names. Uh, the only name, or he's tied with OG Ananobi, which is pretty good as well. Derek White's at plus 75. Reggie's at plus 72. Joel Embiid plus 71. It is really, really impressive to see how he has handled that, what he is doing, and I continue to be impressed. The numbers don't lie, man. He has played some great minutes with Nikola Jokic, and he's even propping up the bench unit as well.
Yeah, I'm excited for him, man. I think that it's going to be a really interesting season for him. You know, we'll find out, bro. Again, Reggie's just is another dude that's kind of rebuilding his value around the league. Everybody was like Bruce Brown plays the four, can't really trust him to play guard. Now you see Bruce Brown next to Tyrese Halliburton. They're apparently the greatest offense of all time with him and Hield and Miles Turner and the rest of them. So I'm really happy for Reggie. Hope he continues to play at a high level. And historically he's played a lot of games too. So he's a nice, reliable player to have on your roster. Again, he's a borderline starting level player, really a preferable bench option off the, in terms of like his actual player value. But you know what? Like on this roster, next to KCP, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, and Christian Brown, and Peyton Watson, and Julian Strawther, he fits perfectly.
He certainly does, and it's always going to be a fun thing to track. I'm curious to see how the Nuggets continue to handle it. But let's now move, I think, to the rest of the bench unit, a unit that there's a lot of youth there. There's a lot of, I think, expectations there. I would call it a work in progress because it is still a young group, and we're not ultimately sure who is going to be in that playoff rotation at the end of the day, whether it's just going to be overlapping starters or whether any of the young guys are really going to pencil themselves in as permanent additions. I think a lot of people expect a Christian Brown to be there, but he's probably the one guy that I'm looking at right now is not necessarily the progressions that I wanted to see from him. Just in general, what are some of your takeaways from whether it's Christian Brown or Peyton Watson or Zeke Naji or Julian Strother or even Colin Gillespie? Some takeaways from the bench unit as we see it so far.
He can't shoot. Uh, it's pretty simple. Christian Brown ain't shooting well, ain't making his free throws, and but I think some of that's coming back from the injury is the fact that he hasn't played. He hasn't played, really the entire preseason, and now he's trying to get back into the swing of things. So, not the most confident I've ever seen him, but I think he will continue to get better. But again, for what he's asked to do is fine. Like he had 82 games to figure that stuff out and to get better and to get more consistent offensively, to get the rhythm in the shots, and he will get there at some point in time. But I'm going to say on the other end of this, like defensively, he's been really freaking good. And then on top of it, having him next to Peyton Watson has been a dynamite pairing defensively. So they don't have any offense with the bench unit unless Julian Strother's going off. So definitely you want him to get the shooting and stuff up. But for what his role is, like I'm actually fine with it.
Yeah, I guess more of what I'm hoping for out of him, and more of what I think if people are hoping for his career to kind of go
Yeah.
in a progressive direction where you could see him starting at the end of the day, you could see him absolutely making plays. And I would be at least a little bit curious as to what people are thinking Christian Brown's ultimate role could be because I'm not seeing a starter with the skill set that he's currently at. Like 25% from three is one thing. He'll get that up. I believe that he will
Hmm.
start shooting a little bit better but the 68% shooting from the free throw line, given how he gets there pretty consistently, that number has to get up above 75 at least. Um, and it's the driving into nowhere that I have been really concerned by when he's being asked to kind of create at a reasonable benchmark. And he is only in his second year. I know I have to exercise some patience here, but the actual vision, especially when a guy like Reggie isn't out there or Jamal isn't out there, he's got to
Hmm.
take on a larger responsibility. He's got to be better. He's got to be smarter. He's got to be more successful. And to this point, it just hasn't really manifested. But that's something that, hey, after these first 9 games or so, maybe that's something that they refocus on and he looks better in.
Yeah, I mean he'll figure it out. But like I said, bro, when I watch these two play, Peyton Watson got more upside than Christian Brown does. and he has even further to go on some things. But uh, I thought Christian Brown, it took Caruso a while. Like I know people like always hear me say, he's Alec Caruso with great hair and all that stuff. I mean, he is, but yeah, I mean, it took Caruso a minute. Remember, he was struggling to come off the bench with the Lakers for a while, and then when he did get to the point where they needed to pay him, they didn't pay him for a reason. They didn't think he was going to progress into what he is now, like the one of the best POA defenders of the modern era in
Yeah.
basketball,
Yeah.
basically. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's just when players are that athletic and they're looking for skill development. Sometimes they just take a good bit of time, and so this is only the beginning of his second year. It's probably going to be over the next 2 years a little up and down and all that. But by the time he gets to his fourth year, Christian Brown can be a completely different player. That's because that's just how basketball works. Like, and that's how you get when you get older. So like I said, I think it's more so you definitely want him to continue to get better. But guess what? Christian Brown at this level, the Nuggets still win a championship. They can still win a championship with him playing this way because of how good defensively he is.
I think it's a completely fair assessment. There's no doubt about that, and just given all the optionality that the Nuggets have, whether it's Peyton Watson or Julian Strother or even a guy like Zeke Naji, they have different versions of the players that they
Yep.
will need in the playoffs. It's just more about. Uh, I think Christian was a guy that a lot of people assumed would kind of step into that Bruce Brown role from not just a minute standpoint, but from an effectiveness standpoint, and it's going to be a little bit slower. And I think people probably need to pump the brakes, recalibrate their expectations a little bit, and hope that they can figure that out over the course of these next couple months or so.
I mean, he's been
Who
your
else?
seventh man. He's averaging 7.7, 4.8, 2.4. If his true shooting went up to a 58, 59, which is like just above league average, then I think he would be great. That'd
Yeah,
be great for your seventh man.
yeah. No, I firmly agree. Firmly agree.
Right.
Who else do you want to talk about off the bench right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think Peyton, Julian, and Christian, man, all three of them. Peyton's defense. I don't know if you got a chance to see that article that I posted on my Twitter about his
Yeah.
defense, but people are buying into it. Like his block rate is asinine, his steal rate is asinine. He's already become one of the best off-ball playmaking wings in the NBA. Offensively, he definitely is searching his game out and stuff still, and having to figure some things out. But bro, like when he's on the court with the Nuggets, man, their defense is dominant. And guess what? He has a 61.8 true shooting, low volume, low volume, but he's shooting 50% from the free throw line, but 57% from the field, 31% from three, because he's taking mostly 2-pointers, and he's a finisher. Transition, cuts, slash. Once he gets that corner 3-point pocket stuff in his bank, and yeah, man, like he just is. Everything with Peyton is like it's like the icing on the cake. Like it's
Yeah.
just the additive. Like you have the starters, Reggie, Christian, and then here's Peyton watching this thick layer of chocolate icing on this yellow cake that makes this thing a masterpiece. And now, when he comes on the floor, it's like, man, we have Spider-Man on the court. Like, how do we get around him type thing? And his mechanics aren't even like super solid yet. Like he still gets beat every so often, but because he's so athletic and smart, he catches up to you super well. And then again, as an off-ball help defender, bro, if he's anywhere in your vicinity, he can erase the shot. And he single-handedly looked better versus SGA than any guard did last season when the Nuggets played SGA in the Oklahoma City Thunder by himself.
Yeah.
It's all
I
there.
mean, I'm with you. I'm with you, and I think the one if I'm looking for something over the course of these next 5 to 10 games or so, especially without Jamal Murray out there, I want to see
Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr. and Peyton Watson play together. I want to see Michael Porter Jr. kind of playing that Julian Strother role where the bench is basically it is very focused about, hey, we're gonna switch, we're gonna guard, we're gonna do all these things. But I want to see Reggie stagger. I want to see Reggie,
Mm.
Christian, Peyton, Michael Porter, and Zeke Naji on the floor. Like those five specifically, because you can still play that switchy style. You can still have a lot of space to get up and down the floor, and if you're running in transition, that you're going to create some points for sure. But a guy like Peyton Watson will be able to shine in a lineup like that, and I think that the Nuggets can continue to do a better job of staggering starters to make sure that the bench continues to look good and putting guys like Peyton Watson in
Brian.
situations to succeed.
Out goes KC. No, actually, what I would love to see, because
Mm.
you know what's funny? The person I think needs to be next to Joker. I think MPJ is probably the guy you want next to Joker, but it's KCP. KCP is the guy next to Joker that like I don't know if you've seen the numbers for them, but when they're on the court together, you're basically not beating the Nuggets. Right now, KCP and Joker played the most minutes of any two-man pairing in 290 minutes, a 123-0 rating and a 104 defensive rating. Like KCP is dynamite. But I'll say I would love to see them put Christian Brown and Peyton Watson in at the same time. And then, if you want to have, you can keep Jamal in there if you want. But I would like to see both of them just learning the scheme, finding the open looks at the basket or in the 3-point line. That way they can get their confidence up, over the course of this year, and they can just learn like what it means to play like high level, like movement style ball, where you have to come off a cut and even work on some of your ball handling stuff. Because Peyton actually, who do you trust more as a ball handler right now? Do you trust Peyton or you trust Christian Brown a little bit more?
I don't really trust Peyton because I think that there is still a wildness to
Mm-hmm.
like where he goes. Christian
Right.
goes wildly into the same spot, like where he's going to go at least.
Right.
And I think he can see the floor a little bit better right now. Peyton is still trying to figure that out, but look, I think that they both have their benefits and detriments when trying to create.
Right.
I like seeing a 6'8" super athlete in Peyton Watson try to figure it out in real time. Like there are ways that he can make it work. I would also like to see him continue to back cut and continue to space the floor
Right.
vertically off of Nikola Jokic. Like there's a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
things that they can do, and I hope that they worked on today at practice. But look, I do still have belief in all of these guys off the bench. This is more me nitpicking and say, hey, here's the trends that I've noticed over the course of these first 9 games. And with Christian, I want to see him step up a little bit more. With Peyton, like the free throw shooting's got to be better, and the decision making sometimes has to be better. But overall, you can't really complain about the defense. That dude has been dynamite defensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so again, some of this stuff they'll figure it out as they go, bro. But golly, man, like again, if this is the floor, they have a lot of stuff to work with.
100%. Let's take another break. When we come back, we are going to chat about Nuggets practice today and then a mini preview of Houston. But first, let's talk about Good Morning Broncos.
Hey everyone, this is Cody Rourke, Denver Broncos beat reporter for Mile High Sports. I want to tell you, make sure every single weekday at 9 o'clock a.m., Monday through Friday on Mile High Sports YouTube page, you catch Good Morning Broncos, your daily bite-sized Broncos conversation that you can have with a cup of coffee as we prepare you for all things that are going on with the Denver Broncos in season, out of season, all the storylines, all the drama. Subscribe on the Mile High Sports YouTube page.
Shout out to my guy Cody Rourke for all the great work that he does for Good Morning Broncos, covering a Broncos team that is interesting and should be coming off of the bye week this week, so should have a lot of fun there. All right, final segment here, Swipa. Let us chat about practice today. I'm going to push us to the side here real quickly and add in some things that I got from practice today, some video that I got from practice today, some questions. Let's start with David Adelman talking about the break that the Nuggets got from practice. He was there in place of Michael Malone. Michael Malone actually had to go. He wanted to go see his daughter play high school volleyball, and they ultimately lost today, but had a good time. Coach did. So let's hear from David Adelman. Important thing when you have a stretch of 3 days off, where it's very rare throughout the NBA's calendar to actually get that. What are kind of the steps to kind of get back up and running again?
For us, it's probably different. If we're a young team that's trying to find our way in the NBA, you probably practice a lot more than we did. I think we needed rest. Our main 5 guys outside Jamal with the injury have played a ton of minutes. So it was nice to take a couple days of be on the court, but no contact, keep it light. And then today we got up and down as much as we could with respect to an early game tomorrow on a Sunday. So I think it's going to refuel our guys. I think it can lead to some sloppy play when you come back and play a regular season game. But I think the guys handled it the right.
So that was David Adelman, of course. He is tremendous. He's a fantastic assistant coach for the Nuggets, and he's going to get a head coaching job soon. For posterity's sake, I asked about that question to all three guys that spoke today, whether it was David Adelman, Justin Holiday, KCP. They all talked about how tired the team was, just how physically beat and worn down the team was, and that this break kind of came at the right time. When you get off to an 8-1 start and you're playing in such a condensed schedule, that is going to happen. So, Swiper, kind of just takeaways from these last 3 days, kind of being able to refocus and recenter, and the Nuggets finally getting back on the court today.
Yeah, no problem. Listen to this. Listen up. This is their schedule. They have these 3 days off. They play Sunday. They play against Tuesday, which is 1 day off. They then have 2 days off, 15th and 16th. And then here are the dates for the next several games. The 17th, 19th, 20th, 22nd, 24th, 26th, 27th, 29th for the rest of the month. That is insane. They basically go from the 17th through the 29th, where they have 1 day over the course of that run, where they have no, actually none of them. They don't have more than 2 days off any of these games. These are just going to be straight like 2-3 games in 2 nights. Like, man, this is just a chunk of the schedule, man. They played 7 games in 11 days to start the year off, and now they're stretching out this behemoth of a run. So yeah, I mean, I think KCP talked about this a little bit. Obviously, David Adelman talked about this. They need that rest point. So hopefully this helps them, and they can get some rest from this, bro, because it's about to be a daunting schedule for the next few weeks.
Daunting schedule for sure. There's been a lot of talk, but like I am very impressed with the way that they've handled it. And Justin Holiday specifically mentioned how in different times he has not like the teams that he's been a part of, they haven't handled the rest periods as well. He specifically likes the way that the Nuggets have handled this rest period. They had Thursday off, they had Friday off. Basically, they came in for a small walkthrough, basically, and getting treatment and things like that. But for the most part, everybody was just told, hey, get away from basketball. And Justin certainly did. And it's nice to, I think, recenter, refocus. And just from a personal standpoint, I'd been going like pretty hard for the last 3 weeks or so. So it was very nice to get a couple days off for sure. But they will be progressing. They did some scrimmaging today. They did a lot of discussions about the Houston Rockets and game planning for them specifically, which you don't often get that kind of a period of time to game plan for a specific team. I asked KCP about Alperen Şengün, and he had some interesting things to say. Take a listen. A lot of comparisons between a guy like Nikola Jokic and Alperen Şengün, just a very younger version in a lot of ways. Just how important is it for an offense to be able to run stuff through their big man? It's not very common.
It's not. But when you got a guy like Jokic and Şengün, that can score the ball down there and shoot the ball from the three, from the midi, can pass. It's hard not to run plays through them. And they seem to make it work every time they get the ball in their hands. So, as a GM and as a coach, I would do the same.
Interesting stuff from KCP. He likes Şengün, and I think that they have definitely seen some of those benefits Houston has from running more offense through him. Just to point out Şengün's numbers here, unless you've already got them pulled up, I wouldn't be surprised.
No, go ahead.
If you did. Şengün has been tremendous so far this year. He's averaging 19 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists on nearly 62% from the field, only 28% from 3 and 57 from the line, but those numbers will probably normalize. He's at a 25 PER, which isn't everything, but he has been super involved, and their defense has been really good when he's been on the floor. And I was kind of surprised by that. I was kind of surprised because he had been a defensive weakness for multiple years, and kind of in that Domantas Sabonis mold, you're not really sure whether you can defend with a guy like that. They have been defending with Şengün, and he has been, I think, a better, like he is more baby Jokic than Sabonis is, in my opinion, just with the ways that he can impact the game. I know you disagree about that, but I think I was wrong initially about Alperen Şengün.
Well, first off, I'm the one that told you to put him on your top 100 list, and you left him off. So obviously,
it was a massive mistake. If it is probably the single biggest regret of the top 100, I should have switched him and Jalen Green.
Yeah. Jalen, obviously, I don't think any business being on there, but he's playing better as well as of late.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, well, here's the two-man pairing of Alperen Şengün and Dylan Brooks this year. A 122.4 offensive rating, 97.7 defensive rating, a plus 24.7 net rating. Between the two, when they're on the court together, the Rockets are shooting 65% true shooting, and they have a 66.7 assist percentage. And Dylan Brooks is also going bonkers, a 71 true shooting on the year as a scorer, 14 points a game. So Dylan Brooks has been everything and anything that they could have asked for from a wing defender and even from a tertiary offensive player. That's a third option or fourth option, depending on how you view his role, man. And defensively leaning into what they are, Jabari, Torrey, Eason, Amen, not even fully in the rotation yet. I mean, they got a lot of guys. Cam Whitmore, not good yet, but hopefully he figures it out as time goes on too, man. Like, and then Jalen Green buying into an identity, Fred VanVleet. They just got a lot of guys. And the West is shaping out way different than I predicted in some ways. The Lakers are much worse. The Clippers were doing great, then they got hard. Now they're terrible. The Pelicans are the Pelicans. The Mavericks are starting off really well. I don't suspect they're going to maintain this throughout the year. Memphis lost Ja. JJJ is getting thrown out of the game for complaining about getting absolutely hacked, which he was rightly upset about. And then, there are some other teams that are just, kind of floating and doing whatever. Then you got the Suns that are struggling. Booker ain't played yet with KD and Bill. The Warriors are doing better. So, yeah, man, I think that the Rockets are in prime position to be in a play-in spot. And, we'll see how it ends up going. Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they're the surprise team of the NBA season.
So I had done on the alley-oop with Ryan Blackburn. I had done a video with the Houston Rockets and Jackson Gatlin, who like that video actually popped, by the way. That one was pretty like surprising how well that one did. But Jackson does a great job, and he was floating Alperen Şengün as a star, and he said he'd probably take him over Sabonis right now. And I know he's biased, and I know that there are reasons to probably like push back against that, but I didn't want to in the moment because he was just going off. But it's very interesting to hear about the Houston Rockets as this team that has accountability with Ime Udoka, has veteran leadership with Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks and Jeff Green. Shout out Jeff Green, bald Jeff Green. And it has been really interesting to see them sort of transition away from being that young, incompetent organization to being an actual basketball team with an actual future. So really cool to see from them. I think the Nuggets are going to get pushed, like given that what David Adelman just said in this video that we showed, like they'll be a little bit sloppy. The Nuggets will, in all likelihood. So I'm curious to see how both teams handle that matchup on Sunday.
Yeah, the Rockets have won 5 straight games, and right now they're believing in their identity and stuff. So maybe we'll see if the Nuggets come out like they did with the Thunder, and they're like, all right, cool. Let's end this game early, get this done in 3 quarters, and then maybe they will if they choose to do so. But I think the Rockets are come out. They're going to really try to set the tone for themselves. And again, they care about these kind of games. They're playing versus the NBA champion and the best player in the world. And Alfie, his role model, is the guy that's 20 years old in the middle of his prime on the way to winning a 3rd MVP. So, yeah, man, it's just, everything's in the recipe, especially with a very competitive coach like Ime Udoka. Everything is in the recipe for this to be a slaughterhouse.
I'm man, it's gonna be funny. It's gonna be really funny if the Nuggets, like the only 2 losses that they have are to the Minnesota Timberwolves and to the Houston Rockets. It's gonna be tremendously hilarious and good content for everybody, and everybody will overreact. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But we've got Sunday at Houston, Tuesday versus the LA Clippers. That is an in-season tournament game. Friday is also an in-season tournament game against the New Orleans Pelicans on the road, and then Sunday at the Cleveland Cavaliers. That Friday game at New Orleans begins a 5-game road trip for Denver, like you talked about, and it is a condensed part of their schedule, and it is going to be hard. It is going to be difficult, and I'm curious to see how they handle it, but it is important for that reason to take this Sunday game seriously, to take this Tuesday game seriously, this Friday game seriously, because towards the end of that road trip, it's going to get hard. Like, it's just going to be difficult for them to handle some of, like, there's a back-to-back in there between Cleveland and Detroit, I believe, and it's going to be just a grind at the beginning of this year, especially without Jamal Murray. So I'm hoping that they get through it unscathed, but we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, man. This week we got the Rockets on Sunday, Clippers, Pelicans, Cavs, and then the Pistons on that next Monday. So they got 4 games coming this week, basically, Ryan, if you're including this Sunday, or 3 games if you're including the next Sunday, or if not. But all these are winnable games. The issue is just that first off, the Clippers are like going to be desperate. They look horrible right now. Nobody knows their role. Kawhi Leonard's talking like a role player. Paul George is talking about I need to go work hard on rebounding and stuff to make sure we don't, fall in between the crack on some of these things. It's like, bro, that's not your job.
Yeah,
why are you doing this?
I agree with you. Like, I think that it's so funny how that has really devolved. That situation has devolved. Now they're going to become Harden's team for some reason. The system himself, and it is going to be really weird to see how they respond because they're coming to a Nuggets situation where they haven't won against the Nuggets in like since the Vietnam War. Like it is going to be
Right.
fascinating to see how they handle that. And I'm just curious to see, like, is this thing going to fizzle out and die before it actually gets off the ground? I'm curious.
Well, no, because I know what they're going to do. They're going to eventually put Russ on the bench, and they're going to have Harden, Paul George, Terrence Mann, and Kawhi Leonard and Ivica Zubac starting. The problem is like I don't know what they're doing. I would have just started Ivica Zubac, PJ Tucker, Kawhi, PG, and then have Harden. And then you can rotate everybody else. Then you have some nice staggers with Russ and PG, and then staggers with Harden and Paul and Kawhi Leonard. I mean, there's all kind of, but they keep going small. Like they were running lineup with like Norman Powell, Bones Highland, with PJ Tucker at the point with Russ on the court. Like, what are we doing? It's like you have wings. Use them.
That's the thing, though, is that given the trade that they made, they kept Norman Powell for some reason. And they decided, you know what? We're going to move Nicholas Batum. We're going to move Marcus Morris. We're going to move Robert Covington. All of these guys that for some reason, like other than Marcus Morris, they should have held on to Nicholas Batum for dear life because he would have been so helpful kind of connecting things for this group. And I just like they got a bad deal with this Harden deal. I am not high on the Clippers right now. I think that they're going to have to reshuffle their
I can't hear you, Ron. Yeah, Ryan, your sound is messing up. Everybody laugh and point at Ryan Blackburn. His sound is just jacked up. It's like, Steve! All right, like Ryan, I'm a movie. Let me move you out of the way and then fix your audio and come back up. All right. This is Weekends with Swipa, Ryan Blackburn down below. Y'all, is the audio fixed now? Is it back up? Well, yeah. Anyway, I think the Clipper situation is just a complete joke right now. I don't know how or when they're going to fix that, but hopefully they're able to get that fixed soon. Who knows? But the Nuggets are going to have the Pelicans and the Cavs coming up the rest of this week. So I don't know, man. Like the Clippers, they should be able to win. If I gave my Final Four predictions, I think they're going to win. Ryan, can you hear it?
I mean, I could hear you the entire time. I don't know what happened with me. What was going on? Like, I'm sorry, everybody. That was nothing happened. Nothing should have happened. Nothing changed on my end. Like, I don't know.
That was hilarious, man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. By the way, yeah, Steve, I certainly saw that comment. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
But here, Ryan. So my prediction, I think the Nuggets are going to win the Rockets game. I think they're going to win about 115 to 105. Is my score prediction for that one. I think the game they might end up losing this week might be the Pelicans game, and then they'll come back and beat the Cavs and the Pistons. But I think they might lose the Pelicans. By the way, I called this whole remember. I called the Pelicans game be the worst game. I said they're gonna win the Warriors game, and I said they would most likely lose to the Timberwolves given the situation. So, and I'm kind of riding a hot streak right now. Do I want to lock in with the Pelicans?
You should. They're not great against New Orleans. In New Orleans for sure. Like that is a like. I mean, I know it is an in-season tournament game, but they've got 2 days off, and they'll be traveling to New Orleans to have some fun. So I can absolutely understand. But no, we'll see what happens. I think for this particular stretch, I'll say that they lose to Houston, they beat the Clippers, they lose to New Orleans, and they lose to Cleveland. I think they go 1-3. And people are going to be like, is the sky falling?
1-3?
Yeah. It's either going to be 2-2 or 1-3.
Where did you get this, Ryan, with the pessimistic? Oh, what did you say about the New Orleans Pelicans? They had a deeper bench when they were down 20 or something like that. Oh, that was the tweet of the day, by the way.
That jinx worked perfectly, dude. I'm just kidding. You know what's funny about the jinx is that I literally just tweet my thoughts, and then the Nuggets use this cosmic like karma to then make me look like a dumbass, and everybody has now branded it. Ryan, you're doing great with your jinx, man. Thank you so much for your help. Really appreciate it. And I'm just like, yes, that's right. That is exactly what happened. No, I'm gonna. We'll say 2-2. Well, I'll be safe and say 2-2. But
so
I think
where are the wins and the losses this week?
I will say that I'll say that they beat Houston. Actually, they beat the Clippers, and then they lose to the Pelicans and the Cavs. The Cavs are going to recover, but they have a setup with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley that should give some Minnesota vibes. I do agree, but like they're a team that can also get hot. Like they will get hot against Denver. That'll be my prediction, and people will be like, "Man, Denver's defense just doesn't look very good right now." Yeah.
Let me see their offense this year. Oh my gosh, ugh. They're 25th in the NBA in offense so far to start this year, and they're shooting. Is that a 55.7 true shooting? They have a negative true shooting as a roster. They can't shoot worth a lick. Ugh.
No, don't get me wrong. Like
their defense is good, but
that'll be a good test for KCP. I think that's one where if Donovan Mitchell gets, if Donovan Mitchell gets free of them, right now. I'm with you. That is my prediction: is that they start to get their stuff together, because I think a lot of people viewed them as a 50-win team, and they're going to figure it out. It's like it just sometimes takes time, you know. So
they went 0-4 with Darius Garland, and he came back in the lineup. And they won the next game. Can't remember. But yeah, bro. I mean, even their two power lineup, like Denver doesn't struggle with Jokic doesn't struggle with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. You know, so I mean, we'll have to see how that ends up working. I think in the first game he had a 28-point triple-double, and then they won again in Cleveland. But they did have to come back in that game, though.
Yeah, no, I think that without Jamal, like when you don't have that spacing, you don't have that dynamic pick and roll partner, then like, and I know that we just talked about Reggie being like great, and he has stepped up for sure, but it is at least, I think, some more variance kind of gets in there, and they'll make Reggie prove it. They'll make those guys beat him, and I think that with the Gordon Jokic like kind of factor, it's going to be fascinating to see how Mobley and Allen really try to figure that out. So should be good. All right, well that's all I've got. Sorry about the vibrator playing in the background. It's crazy.
I don't associate with that comment at all, y'all.
All right, that is going to do it, I think, for this episode of Weekends with Swipa. I am going to for some reason this always screws with my audio. I don't understand why. When I play this, it always screws up. We will see how it goes, but really do appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for popping in here. Went for basically a full hour. Lots of fun times, lots of interesting moments on this particular episode. So thank you so much, Swipa, for popping in here. Any parting thoughts before we get out of here?
Apparently, y'all, the Cleveland Cavaliers' stinky offense is going to recalibrate with the Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen pick and roll versus league worst defender Nikola Jokic. You heard it here first from Ryan Blackburn, everyone.
That is exactly what I said. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you. Hit that like button, that subscribe button on the way out. We'll talk to you guys next week.